hear you're selling analog meters. I mean,
Well, yeah.
Those don't cause cancer.
The meters? No, the analog meters do not. And so people are screaming now. I just got a call from a woman who purchased one of our analog meters, and on the first day she purchased it, she wants the UPS tracking number, and she's acting like she's in a panic. She said, my kids are sick from the smart meter, and I've got to get this thing changed now. And every day she calls me for a track. Finally, I gave her a tracking number, and on the day I gave her the tracking number, 3 or 4 days later when I finally got it, she said, I got an email from her, okay, my kids are in the hospital with asthma. I need that meter now. So people are getting extremely stressed.
How can we get these analog meters?
Well, I've got them at freedomtaker.com. And
I didn't understand that. You said freedom?
Yeah, freedomtaker.com, all one word, very simple. Here's what you need. You don't just need the analog meter, you need the legal notice that gives you the standing to replace your meter. If you take your meter off, your smart meter off, they're just going to say you're tampering, you're messing with their equipment, you're violating their easement, blah, blah, blah. You send them our legal notice, and it tells them you are violating the law. You're emitting radiation into my home. You have a surveillance device mounted on my home. You must remove it within X days. And when they don't remove it, you are then fully legally authorized to defend yourself against their violations of the law. And you just take that meter off and you put on your analog meter. You gave them a chance. You give them a day, you give them 7 days, you give them 3 weeks, whatever you think is fair. If you have health issues, it's got to go off now. If you want to give them all the time in the world, you give them 21 days. But once they get that notice, once they fail to get that meter off your house, they know that it's causing cancer, they know that it's causing birth defects, they know that it's causing neurological injuries. They are now the violator. You take that meter off, it's self-defense.
Smart meters only cause that, so far as I know, class 2B carcinogens. That's only small cancers in the brain, the breast, and the balls.
Well, is there such a thing as good cancer? So you need to get away from your smart meter. You need to get that thing off your house or off your apartment. So this big excuse of, oh, we're going to save all this money on meter readers. Well, they didn't have to have meter readers in the first place.
So that's all lies.
It's completely irrelevant.
Just put it in one word, is it bullshit?
I guess so. And you can read your own meter and you can report that, and you can do that with your analog meter. And so you don't need all this high-tech stuff. You don't need to be spied on. You don't need to have electromagnetic radiation bursting through your house.
Jerry, you mean we don't need to be spied upon? I mean, isn't that for our own security if we're spied upon?
If you want to be spied on, then I'm sure you can find somebody to spy on you, but you don't need it, no.
Well, listen, in Germany, when Hitler was in power, they needed that power, the Gestapo.
Well, they had the children thinking they needed it, and the children would rat on their parents. So if you did anything, you said anything bad about the Fuhrer, your children would turn you in. And that's where we're heading. We've got our children in government public schools, so you might want to check on what your children are being told, whether they're being told that their parents might be the enemy and they might have to turn their parents in. So that's what we're coming to next.
A police state.
Yeah.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor, Councilman, I'm very concerned over the last couple of weeks that what's happened in the United States has never happened in a Western industrialized country. We have a Military Authorization Act that allows the military to grab any person off the street without reason and keep them indefinitely. They can disappear them. And when I see young kids like this that are coming up as citizens and supposed to be studying the Constitution, and every one of you took an oath to the Constitution, I cannot understand why people aren't up in arms about this. This goes back even before the Magna Carta. Churchill said when the habeas corpus, the great writ, was a dividing line between despotism and freedom. And there's no excuse for you not making for anybody accepting this right now. We're living under a dictatorship by design. I came to mention about your Beacon Participation Award. Whoever prepared this for you cut off part of the information. They have a number of utility companies down here, but they didn't put down it's a statewide energy efficiency cooperative. It is run by several organizations. One is the Institute of Local Government, funded by the Ford Foundation in 1955. Their purpose, they said, was to so alter the United States that it could comfortably merge with the Soviet Union. The other sponsor of this is a front for the World Bank. It is Iclei. It is those policies you have forced, according to this...
Mr. Arnold, Iclei is on the agenda, so if you want to speak about Iclei, we will get to that moment.
This has to do with policy, not your joining it. You force the people, the ratepayers, to support this policy, and I think that's very dangerous. The city managers, the California League of Cities, California Forward is attacking attacking self-government by setting up an AMBAG-style Soviet. But I encourage you to look at the documentary that I gave you. Be very jealous of self-government. Don't be giving away your power to regional agencies.
All right, thank you, Mr. Arnold. Excuse me, there will be no clapping. We do not disrupt the proceedings. If you want to clap, we will have you, we'll move everyone outside and you'll come in one at a time to speak. That's the only warning you're going to get tonight. 11D, discussion of the city's green programs and climate protection work and consideration of continuing San Carlos membership in Iclei local governments for sustainability. So Mr. Mora will do a staff presentation, we'll go council questions, and then we'll have public comment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. What we're doing tonight is we're going to talk a little bit about the city's green program. We usually do these updates in the summer, but in light of this particular issue and also because we have 2 new council members, we thought it'd be helpful to start there. And then we're also going to answer some of the questions that were raised in August by some of the folks who are opposed to some of the city's sustainability initiatives. We work with Iclei, and we also work with the League of California Cities and their associate group, the Institute for Local Self-Government.
Any chance that state laws and regs, for example, let's pick one of them, SB 375, while coming from the state, any chance that came from the state, but the impetus for the state action originated from recommendations authored by the UN, perhaps at one of their conferences?
Nope.
You don't think so?
Nope, absolutely not.
Okay.
In fact, we actually negotiated some of the terms of SB 375 with former Assembly member
No.
and Mr. Steinberg.
I'm sorry, Mr. Moore. I'm not saying that the actual language and writing of the law was done somewhere else. What I'm saying is the concept, the idea of the law, the impetus for the law came from somewhere else.
No.
You don't think so?
No, it came from Mr. Steinberg. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Rosa Corey. I'm the Executive Director of the Post-Sustainability Institute. And I'm glad to be here tonight. It's an important night because we're drawing something out of the shadows. And it's important to talk about it. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy fact. This is Agenda 21. This is the United Nations plan. It's a 300-page, 40-chapter plan. And Iclei was created in 1990, prior to this plan's adoption, to implement United Nations Agenda 21, Sustainable Development worldwide. Sustainable development is a term that was defined by the United Nations, and all of these terms come out of the United Nations. Smart growth is part of United Nations Agenda 21. Your general plan elements are designed in accordance with United Nations Agenda 21 principles. Its language is in your 2030 general plan. Your planners were trained in it. The flyer that we gave you over there is from Local Agenda 21 Planning Guide. It's a joint Iclei and United Nations book, and it is used in your planning department, the planning department for San Carlos. This plan is a whole life plan. It involves the educational system, the energy market, transportation system, the governmental system, healthcare, food production, and more. The plan restricts your choices, it limits your ability to govern yourself, and it takes away your freedom. This seems like a rhetorical statement, but it really is not. This is actually what this plan does. And using the cover of environmental concern, our private property rights and our civil rights have been diminished, and they will continue to be so unless we call a halt to it. One of your residents has purchased some of I wrote a book. It's called Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21, and he purchased these books for you. And I have provided them for you here. Iclei is the International
Corey,
Council
we're
for
gonna-
Local
we're gonna need your help
Environmental
wrapping up.
Initiatives, but it changed its name so that you wouldn't know that it's international. It seems like all of these things seem like they sound so good. Sustainable development, green, vibrant, walkable, bikeable. You know, how could you be against that? But really, when you know about this plan, it is really very serious, and I urge you tonight
Thank you.
to sever your relationship with Iclei.
My name is B. Phillips, and I'm concerned about the future of my neighbors, my family, and private business, small business in this area. The International Council of Local Environments is an oxymoron to me. What does the International Council have to do with our local environments? That should be something that local governments as yourself are controlling, the local areas. It should not have anything to do with an international council. And I don't believe that we've gotten full knowledge of Iclei. I don't think they've been forthright in describing their long-term goals and their plans. As you said, they helped us to prepare different things, and the gentleman who spoke before, I think that could be directive. In fact, I have a question for you. If you use Iclei software and Iclei spreadsheets, are you not under a soft form of control already from Iclei? I went to a visioning meeting recently in this area, and they had up on the board a map of the Bay Area with pies for each city and a housing for each city. And they were talking about developments that were going to be for lower income, and some areas, when I asked my question, they said are not going to be touched. But I'm wondering for how long, because those pies, as I understand it, will shrink, and that they have urban borders, and when I'm excluded from the urban border, my taxes, my water, my PG&E bill will go so high that I won't be able to afford to live in my home. I'm very concerned about this. If we go into these tenements, these high-rise pack and stack, there's no place for cars. And as for myself, I am a professional geriatric nurse consultant in home care. I travel from Cupertino to Santa Rosa. I urge you to withdraw from Iclei for our quality of life. It's un-American and it's against the Constitution.
Hi, I'm Leslie Tazzini, and I'm here to urge San Carlos, the city of San Carlos, to withdraw from Iclei membership. As you've already been told, Iclei is a non-governmental organization that was created at the United Nations headquarters in New York in 1990. The ultimate objective of the agenda is to establish international norms of personal behavior that are dictated by a handful of the world's so-called enlightened elite who believe they know best how all we should live. I have here a document from Iclei. It is their local governments for sustainability preparing for tomorrow strategy for 2010 to 2015. And on the last page, they state that 2 years prior to the 1992 Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Iclei prepared input to and introduced the local authorities' chapter of Agenda 21 into the UN Rio Declaration, thus initiating the local Agenda 21 campaign. The UN Commission on Sustainable Development is not the result of a treaty ratified by our Senate. America participates in the UN organization by presidential decree when President Clinton created the President's Council on Sustainable Development, which was conceived to formulate recommendations for the implementation of Agenda 21. Stated in Iclei's preparing for tomorrow's strategy, one of their goals is to continue connecting cities and local governments to the United Nations and other international bodies. Neither the United States Congress nor the American people have voted for Agenda 21's implementation. The goals of UN Agenda 21 go against our Constitution and the sovereignty of the United States, and I urge you to please take your membership from Iclei now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Doug Tazzini. I've been listening to the proceedings here, and it's interesting that Mr. Morrow there is such an authority on the subject, and obviously those of us who are opposed to it seem to be having no information at all. One thing I just wanted to point out, and I don't think that Mr. Mora can contradict me on this, that each and every one of you has taken an oath of office. An oath of office that says you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, as have I or any of these other men here and women who've worn a uniform. I'm going to remind you, words mean something, and I believe you'll be held accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. We have George Robinson, followed by Carol Robinson.
Until about a year ago, I hadn't heard of Iclei either. And when I did hear about it, I dismissed it, what I heard. I said it can't possibly be, it can't happen in this country. In the past year, I've spent some time and looked into it. It is happening in this country. It is an insidious virus that has gone septic throughout this country, infecting our government at all levels. I went to this visioning meeting last week with the idea that they were the enemy and that's what we were there to defeat. I came away with it saying, no, they're just hired guns by the government to take the blame and the wrath of the people, leaving the government to say, hey, we didn't do it. I think that they have gotten into the governments, including this one here, without you even realizing it when they came in. They present themselves as helping you. Once they're in, I think what I'm hearing is that they are educating you to conform to what they want to be accomplished and provide you the tools to take that on. If this goes through, we are going to see our freedoms diminished. We're going to see our property removed. It's going to be done through things like water restriction. It's going to be done through, like ABAG having $200 billion that they're going to dangle in front of these communities like yourselves and say, you know, we'd like you to build high-density housing. And for every bedroom you build within a short distance to a train station, we're going to give you so much money. All these governments are starved for money these days, and they're going to be influenced by that. So, yes, they're not directly controlling you, but they're going to control you through indoctrination and through dangling money at you.
We'll go with James Bennett first.
Good evening. My name is Jim Bennett. Part of the burden of resisting the suppression that is taking over our country is telling people that many in their own government that took an oath are complicit in a plan that would incrementally provide for our decline civilly, economically, undermining our property rights, which is very, very heavy and instrumental to our abundance. Our founding fathers knew it. As this gentleman alluded to, in public service you take an oath. It's a very simple oath. It's not complicated. It provides for your not having an allegiance with a group that is not the U.S. government. When you take directive from, and you are accountable to, and you employ training from an NGO that is not the U.S. government, you are in treason. When you are complicit in tyranny, and make no mistake, that's what we're witnessing right now in our country. You're a tyrant. Now, this isn't about green. Green is just the guise. Green is just the guise until we open our eyes and realize that control is how the people that you're working for really roll. And sometimes we catch you snickering at us standing up for our rights. You should be ashamed. You know, this oppressive chapter in our history is going to pass. And I hope that you've done the right thing and you've picked the right team. Because some of us little groups, our efforts are going to morph into seeing to it that anyone that was a public official during this
Mr. Bennett,
dark
please,
chapter
please refer your comments to
never
here.
gets a chance to be in public service again. I think that's fair enough. I mean,
Mr. Bennett, your time is
I
up.
could never
Your time is
do
up, Mr.
what
Bennett.
to you what you're doing to us.
Thank you,
They
Mr.
don't
Bennett.
print enough money for me to do to you.
Mr. Bennett,
what
your time
you're
is up. Please
doing
sit
to
down.
us.
Please sit down. Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking on the Agenda 21 Iclei. They are connected. As my husband said, we started reading a lot about this whole issue. And we started talking to people back east when we would go periodically. We are from originally the East Coast. And we looked at each other and we said, we don't put tinfoil hats on our head when we go in the house. I mean, it sounded really strange. And it's admirable, this gentleman, Mr. Mora, and the awards that San Carlos has received for your efforts. The problem is I started reading into AB 32, into the scoping plan. And it's an extensive plan. It covers every aspect of our lives. Now we could say, okay, Iclei and Agenda 21, what do they have to do with us? Well, AB 32 was passed and signed by the past Governor Schwarzenegger. And if you read the scoping plan in AB 32, it's about 70 or 80 pages long. You cannot eat or breathe without wondering how much you're going to be contributing to greenhouse gases. Those bills will alter the way we live in this state. It will alter business, it will alter food, it will alter drive. They want a 1 million roof solar panel plan. Solar companies are going out of business. There is a reality here. There's a separation between reality and what can really be done here. Unless you put a bubble over this state, AB 32 and AB 375 are basically useless. But they will control how we live. Belmont refuses to become a part of Iclei. I am so excited that I live in Belmont and I don't live in San Carlos because Belmont
We need
refuses
you to wrap up, Mrs. Robinson.
to become part of Iclei because, as my husband said, it is insidious. There is an agenda here. They call it Agenda 21 for a reason. I suggest you delve deeper into what you're paying for.
I find it necessary at this time, though, to correct the record on some things. There were questions and statements that were attributed to me that are patently false. Patently false. And I object to that, and I object to them being posted in my name. I came before this council asking only that you put this subject matter on the agenda for open debate. I came with no agenda. I didn't come as part of a group. I was here as an individual that had read, as many of these people have, about the insidiousness of Agenda 21. And that's why I wanted it openly debated. I have not come out and said publicly or privately that I'm against sustainability or the city's efforts to be good stewards of our environment and our resources. That would be contradictory to what I believe. But I am patently against Iclei and Agenda 21. And I urge the city, as a resident, to withdraw your membership. That's not to say give up your green programs. That's not to say give up striving to have a better environment. But disconnect from this organization. It is not good, folks. Take the time yourself to do the research. Do not rely on staff that obviously lacks some veracity.
My name is Orlene Kurla. Just want to make 5 points. First of all, according to their own records, Iclei was instrumental in the development of Agenda 21, having drafted Chapter 28 in 1991 in preparation for the upcoming summit. Then also, according to their own documents, it helped launch the next phase of Agenda 21, which was called the Local Action 21, and that was also documented as LA 21. Number 3, it was specifically endorsed in the UN Agenda 21 document on page 55, where it says that, yes, Iclei is part of the United Nations Agenda 21. And fourthly, Iclei coordinates the representation of local government in the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, ensuring municipalities are part of the global climate negotiations. And fifthly, Iclei is part of the Global Partnership on Cities and Biodiversity. And this was part of the UN Agenda 21. It was called the Biodiversity Treaty. And inside this treaty, you find the amazing words called the Wildlands Project. Are you familiar with that term? If I could have my friend Deborah, this is the Wildlands map. And when our U.S. Senate saw this and saw the words Wildland Project, they refused to even bring it up on the table for vote because they knew this was created by the radical group Earth First, and they withdrew it from even voting. So this treaty was never ratified by our U.S. Senate, but it was put in by Clinton by executive order.
We're going to need you to start wrapping up, please.
So we are now operating under this, and that's how it affects my rural land, because my rural land will be taken. I will not be able to live on it anymore. All the red areas are where people are totally off limits, and that encompasses Siskiyou County in California. Wairika is no longer on the map. So many other parts of rural California are no longer there, and hopefully you will be able to do your own research on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
What we are facing is the Nazization of this nation. You're seeing it before us. It's all around us. Agenda 21 is Hitler's dream come true. It's the piecemeal destruction of this nation. And you are a party to this. You don't know what you're doing. You're talking about frogs and trees and birds and bees. You have no idea what the hell is happening in this country. Not a foggy idea. And you're party to this with Agenda 21 and Iclei. I mean, we've all stepped in Iclei, for God's sakes, but at least we had the sense to scrape it off the bottom of our shoes. We must have individuals like you as test animals, guinea animals to test the Agenda 21 and the new smart meters. The smart meter school, they're number 2, class 2B carcinogens. They will create cancers in your brain, in your breast, in your body. They must be removed. They must be stopped. It is a plan. The whole thing is a plan. You say, well, this is crazy to reduce the population of the country, of the world, by 95%. Ted Turner said, yes, that's what he wants. Ted the Terrible Turner says he wants to reduce the country size and all other countries by 95%. This is happening. This isn't a dream. This is a reality. A world government is being developed. Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer, one world, one race, one ruler. That's the agenda. That's the agenda, Andy Klein. I want you to be testing these smart meters in all of your homes, your families, your friends, your children should be having these. Before we have any of them, you should all be having them in your homes, and we'll find out how you do after 10 years or 5 years using these instruments.
We're going to need you to wrap up, sir.
And what's being dropped overhead? Nanoparticulates, strontium, barium, arsenic, aluminum oxides. It kills you. The intention is to reduce the population of the planet. It's not a dream. It's all over the net. It's all over the world. Wake up. And I would like to see those of you who have voted for this impeached.
It's overwhelming to hear the people here that they know about what Agenda 21 is, sustainable development, the connection to the United Nations, and you, our elected officials, are in a fog. And your planning and the staff, even in a deeper fog. You are supposed to, as people have said, you took an oath of office, and that was to defend domestic and foreign traders.
and you are allowing them to take over your land, which I hope you consider it America, your land. It's your children. If you have any children, you have to defend that. And they said that Agenda 21 is not part of Iclei. I have parts of Agenda 21 and Iclei here, and this is from the Iclei website. It says over 10,000 communities worldwide have engaged in local Agenda 21, a participatory planning process developed by Iclei for Agenda 21, the Global Action Plan for Sustainable Development. I don't know how you can continue to say that they're not connected. Either you're, I don't want to say the words, but either you are living in another planet or we are the ones from another planet. And as you know, I am from Cuba, and I've seen this happen before, and I also hear, because I have a property rights organization called Californians for Property Rights. So I have a right to be here, even though I don't live in San Carlos, but I visit San Carlos, and my doctors are in San Carlos, and I have a lot of friends here. And we, as you say, are all united locally. Well, this concerns me too, especially when they're trying to, One Bay Area is trying to put 9 counties into one region, which it will mean that you, mayor and city council members, are going to lose your jobs, because once they do that, you're just being used. Once they do that, you're out of commission. We went to meetings, 100 people for one meeting. 9 meetings means 900 people were making a decision for 8 million people. Does that make sense to you? Just read on, please. Don't let this happen to this country.
So first of all, I'm pretty insulted by Mr. Mora. I thought that was a low blow, taking a personal hit on many of us. And it makes me wonder what he's getting out of this whole thing. When I first mentioned to you guys about my concern about Iclei, Mr. Mora was doing a presentation on the green, how green San Carlos is. And when I saw the name Iclei, because of all the things that have been happening to my parents' ranch, which you guys misquoted me, and that I saw some emails that went back and forth between some government officials, some city council officials. You guys got it completely wrong. I don't appreciate you guys researching my background. It is completely inappropriate for you guys to be doing that to the people you are supposed to represent. We are not your enemies. We are concerned citizens for not only our country, but that means you too. So I gave you a document that I put together. I spent a couple $1,000s today printing out at Kinko's and getting documents together for you. Here is the local agenda planning guide, Iclei. Local agenda planning guide, Iclei. If you open this up, it's from Maurice Strong. It talks about the United Nations. It talks about Agenda 21. This is it. You cannot deny that they are not connected. The document's right here. Also, Iclei is a big part of the road to Rio. You can read the sustainability documents. It's the same darn thing as the local Agenda 21. In what I gave you, you will see Iclei's brief sheet. You can find it yourself online. In fact, you can find everything we're telling you guys online. This is all about U.S. private property rights. We have a right to private property, intellectual property, but the UN does not believe we can have property. They believe private land ownership is the way to injustice, that poor people can't have private property, so therefore it's not fair. So they use zoning and land use planning. What is happening to the Bay Area right now? That's what we're doing. We're changing private property into open space. That's what we're doing right now. This is what the UN recommends. Iclei is working on fulfilling those MDGs, and the MDGs are Millennium Development Goals. They are the United Nations.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to address the council with excerpts from a resolution passed by the Republican National Committee dated January 19th, 2012. And in it says, whereas this agenda plan of radical so-called sustainable development views the American way of life of private property ownership, single-family homes, private car ownership, individual travel choices, and privately owned farms all as destructive to the environment. And whereas, according to the United Nations Agenda 21 policy, national sovereignty is deemed as social injustice, and therefore be resolved, the RNC recognizes the destructive and insidious nature of the UN Agenda 21 and hereby exposes to the public and to the public policy makers, they're referring to you, the dangerous intent of the plan, and therefore it be further resolved that the U.S. government and no state or no local government is legally bound by the UN Agenda 21 treaty, as it has never been endorsed by the U.S. Senate. And also is resolved that the federal, state, and local governments across the country be well informed of the underlying harmful implications of the implementation of UN Agenda 21's destructive strategies for sustainable development. And we hereby endorse rejection of its radical policies and rejection of any grant monies attached to it. Now, gentlemen, you talk about not being involved in Iclei or Agenda 21, and up here your screen is green, and your SBs and all that stuff all comes from the agenda of the United Nations creating this global hoax of climate change in the first place.
We're going to need you to wrap up, sir.
I'll wrap up with saying this is a hoax, and I hope that you gentlemen will understand, research, and read this Agenda 21, because it seems that it's all quite new to you.
Thank you.
And please give it your sincere attention and do the right thing.
Good evening. My name is Deborah, and I'm concerned and echo what all these people here have said to you thus far, every single word. I also want to show you an additional map of California, and you need to look this up. There's a lot of homework that you must do, and I'm asking you to stop going forward any further until you've done your homework, and this man can answer the questions that he should be able to address as a staff representing paperwork that is giving you the information you must have, which you don't have. Have you seen this before? If you haven't, you should have. He should have showed you this. This is important. This is disassembling California as we know it. This is not allowing road repairs. This is taking away our forest. This is collapsing private property. Private property is not only inclusive of land, it's our bodies too. When you look into the depths of what the United Nations and Iclei together have in store for us, you would be behind here holding signs and talking to you just as you're hearing all of us talk to you right now. You would be doing the same thing. Now, I've made it very, very simple for you, and I've told you what Iclei really means, because International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives is a bunch of garbled words. Here's what it really means. International criminal law eliminating independence for all people, for all times, across all of the United States, not just here in your town, but in all of the surrounding towns as well. You've heard us all tell you this. This is absolutely true. We are citizens like you. We implore you to do more homework. Stop going forward with the green. It's a hoax. It is an absolute hoax. I've given you some documents. I've made it very, very simple. This is a one-page document. Iclei, Local Governments for Sustainability and the UN Connection. It seems as though staff is not giving you the correct information. If they were, this would not be happening to your town right now.
Spent a few minutes on the internet today and found out, based on your response, I would believe, Mr. Mora, that Iclei is not part of the United Nations or Agenda 21. It is formed by a group of local government agencies from around the world in 1990 as a resource to assist sustainability. On the Iclei website, it says 200 local governments from 43 countries convened at our inaugural conference, the World Congress of Local Governments for Sustainable Future, at the United Nations in New York. I think there's a connection. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Mora? Agenda 21 was formed at a Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro as a result of a long process which began in December of 1989 from the United Nations. They are directly affiliated. Now, it was really nice. Suzanne uses sustainability quite a bit in her vocabulary and has quite a bit. In Senate Bill 375, sustainability is found in 21 of the pages of that Senate bill, and numerous times. Sustainability is exactly what Agenda 21 seeks, and Iclei. You guys are smart. It took me 30 minutes to find this stuff. They have greenhouse gas evaluation tools on the internet. You don't need Iclei. You can do your own work. You have staff. If staff's not willing to do the work, get new staff. And if you guys aren't willing to do the work to get the staff to do the work, I implore the electorate of this city to get new people to get the staff to do the work.
We're going to need you to wrap up, sir.
So, in closing, put out accurate information, Mr. Mora. Suzanne, continue using the terms and words from Iclei and Agenda 21 until you decide no longer to use them. I suggest you guys lead my city of San Jose in getting rid of Iclei.
I'm a concerned citizen. I'm also a certified consulting meteorologist and an oceanographer as well. My company does commercial ship routing, where we optimize fuel consumption and time to minimize greenhouse gases for commercial shipping around the world. I'm not anti-sustainability. I'm a concerned citizen that cares about the environment. By adopting Iclei's required guidelines, you will relinquish your sovereignty, making you unable and ineffective to serve the interests of your citizens. I am confident that a strong majority of the voting public, if they knew about the details and long-term plans of Iclei, would reject joining Iclei. We need to present them and you with a transparent message of the implications of the membership in Iclei, and it's imperative that this be done so that you can realize that joining Iclei is a big mistake.
I'm Kate Okerud. I'm with Democrats Against UN Agenda 21. There's a website you can go to. I live in Santa Rosa, and they're doing exactly the same thing there that you're doing here. And your town and Santa Rosa is doing the exact same thing as every other town in the Bay Area. There, maybe with the exception of Belmont, we heard, but pretty much everyone's a member of Iclei. Everyone's general plan looks almost identical. The language is so similar, it's creepy. These regional plans, one Bay Area, did you know that there's regional plans all across the nation right now that are being rolled out that are all exactly the same? They're all in alignment with the principles of UN Agenda 21. And Iclei is their agent. An NGO is an affiliate of the United Nations. That's what that means. They're not part of this government. They're outside, coming from outside of our nation. And they don't have the best interests of Americans at heart. I mean, if an army was invading our country, I don't think they could do more harm than Iclei is doing to us. And I really see them as infiltrating our governments, setting policy. And you can't say it's a grassroots thing if every city is doing the same thing and the language is the same. The rhetoric is the same. We're having a new rhetoric happening. Frankly, it sounds a lot like communist rhetoric. Going forward. Everything's for the community. Social justice. Social equity. You know, everybody's got to have the same outcome. Your planning department is riddled with this stuff, and I think they're withholding information from you. You clearly don't understand what's going on. And, you know, and I thank whoever is responsible for bringing this out into the light. Because this, you're maybe one of the first to do this. This is going to be happening in every single council across America within this year.
Council members, these people are serious. What they're reading, what they're looking at is serious. They're not here because they're playing games. And I'm going to tell you, as a fellow council member, I'm pleading with you, vote us out of Iclei.
Please stop clapping. If you clap one more time, we're going to clear the room. So
like
please.
The one gentleman said, I've been not paying attention to this, and some people have brought it to my attention, and I was pushing it away. Just last night, in preparation for this meeting, similar to what this gentleman back here said from San Jose, spending 30 minutes on the internet is all it took. And I would ask you to think to yourselves, gentlemen, why would our staff tell us in answering questions? Here's the question. I have recently become aware that San Carlos has membership in Iclei. Iclei arose from a United Nations sponsored program titled Agenda 21. Answer, incorrect. Iclei was founded in 1990. You heard the answers. You heard other people point it out. That's a bald-faced lie in our staff report. It says here there's no connection of Iclei to Agenda 21 or the UN. That's a bald-faced lie. All you have to do is do a little research on the internet, and you can find the answer. They are connected. Ask yourself, I didn't see any of you there. I went to the One Bay Area planning meeting that was at Hilder Aviation Museum in San Carlos. Well, there's not only one Bay Area, there's one Valley, one Vision. That's the name of a program for Santa Clarita Valley in California, for a place in Montana, and another place in New Mexico. Another one, 9 counties, one vision in Tennessee. Another one region, one vision, New York and Indiana. Our Florida, our vision. One Bay Area, that's us. 6 towns, one vision, Lycoming County. 5 counties, one vision, Minnesota. Are you seeing anything here, a thread? And then you look at what the UN, their Road to Rio, and what's the name of it? This year is One Plan. Do you see a thread? There is a thread. This is all coming from the same place, fellas. Our membership in Iclei, if nothing else, that's $600 we give them every year, helps them along with what they're doing. Mr. Mora said San Carlos is not affected by the UN or Agenda 21. And then I asked Mr. Mora, where did the term sustainability come from? Well, the term sustainability came from the Secretary General of the United Nations in 1983 asked Prime Minister of Norway to create an organization to focus on environmental and developmental problems and solutions after an affirmation by the General Assembly resolution in the fall of 1984. Out of that report, the Brundtland Commission, they came up with the term sustainable development. That's where it got coined in their paper that came out of that commission. That was the United Nations. Created the term, coined the term, defined the term. Mr. Mayor, is sustainable development, that term, not in our general plan? It is. That was my point to Mr. Mora, that when I made the point that do you not think SB 375 and other laws that he said came down from the state and we have no control over and so forth, do you not think those are coming from NGOs and their work, the work of the United Nations and Iclei and organizations like it? They're creating these concepts and ideas. Look into the association, the American Association of Planners. Al Savey is a member. Where do they get their training? A lot of their material comes from Agenda 21, UN Agenda 21. This is a sick attack on the United States of America. Why do you think they didn't want to have, Mr. Moore didn't want to have any association with the United Nations? Because of what the United Nations believes about property rights. I think somebody here said it. The United Nations doesn't believe in property rights for individuals. The United Nations believes that, here it is, land cannot be treated as an ordinary asset controlled by individuals and subject to the pressures and inefficiencies of the market. Private land ownership is also a principal instrument of accumulation and concentration of wealth and therefore contributes to social injustice. If unchecked, it may become a major obstacle in the planning and implementation of development schemes. The provision of decent dwellings and healthy conditions for the people can only be achieved if land is used in the interest of society as a whole. Public control of land is therefore indispensable. This comes from the land policy of the United Nations, officially articulated at the United Nations Conference on Human Settlements held in Vancouver, May 31st through June 11, 1976. That's why they don't want you to know the connection of Iclei to Agenda 21, the United Nations. I suggest we remove ourselves from this organization. As people have said, we have made an oath when we took office to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of California. And this stuff flies right in the face of both constitutions.
Thank you, Mr. Grocott. Mr. Collins. Quick point of clarification, it's not public comment. Mr. Rubens, the staff recommendation says that the recommendation is to confirm the city's approach to green programs and membership in Iclei, so you are looking for a vote tonight, correct?
Well, the item doesn't require a vote by the city council. It was designed so that if the council wanted to take a vote, they could under this agenda item. So okay. A non-vote would have the city continue in its membership by default in Iclei, or the council has a proper agendized item to take a vote.
I stand corrected, excuse me.
I do not see the clear and imminent danger, I guess I would use as a phrase, that I hear an awful lot of people talking to. So I'd also be happy to put it to a vote.
I mean, I did the study, and I've been talking to city staff and been going on the internet for 4 months now, and there's nothing that I believe that was said tonight that it really is based in a lot of fact. I'm sorry. We pay $600 a month in dues, or a year, sorry, $600 a year in dues. We pay 10 times that easily in toilet paper in this city, just for our city buildings. It's not a huge economic interest we're putting into Iclei, and we don't frankly get a lot from them. We just get some numbers and some spreadsheets. I think it's ironic when a group of outsiders comes into a community and talks about outside influence. The hypocrisy in that just staggers me. Being called a Nazi is always interesting. You're talking about the systematic wiping out of an entire race and our sustainable policies. I don't even know how you make that connection. And you talk about, well, we're personally attacking you, and then you talk about impeaching us and all these other little veiled threats. And, you really should take a long look in the mirror sometimes when you talk to people. This is coming from a place that I just don't understand. I really don't. I don't understand a lot of the movement that's going on in this country. I don't understand where it comes from, but I truly believe it's not based in fact. So I would like to see a motion that we affirm our membership in Iclei.
I move that the city of San Carlos, I guess what I want to say is retain its membership.
Reaffirm
its membership in Iclei.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Grisilli?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott? Councilmember Olbert?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good night.